There's been a parallel between how well the Bunnymen do with how incredibly well Liverpool Football Club did and ever will do. Yeah, it's something I think I brought up years ago, that I noticed the dominance of Liverpool Football Club, late 70s into the 80s was when we kind of started, and it seemed that while they were conquering Europe, we were conquering the world in a way. When they got banned from Europe, that initially I didn't think too much about it, but it seemed to be when our European kind of fortunes dwindled a bit. Plus we had the kind of year off that never was. We announced after Ocean Rain that we would have a year off because we were that cool and that great, and it was kind of the year that Liverpool got. Well, it was the last time they won the European Cup was '84, and it was just after that, and it was difficult for both Liverpool and for us to kind of regain the territory now.
I think Liverpool Football Club's fortunes are on the up, and so are ours. So it's a parallel thing. It's one of Mac's theories. I'm not a big football fan like I used to be, but I know the rest of the band are. They're all nuts about Liverpool. Like, I'm a Liverpool supporter, but I don't go to the match. So, but there is definitely, we're both rising together to take over the world again.
The title Siberia, I knew when I decided that was the title, I knew that it was a perfect Bunnymen title. I basically picked it initially because it seemed like the best of the song titles to be used as an album title. And as soon as I thought Siberia, it was like it just summed up the Bunnymen. Kind of I'd like to think some kind of dissidence in rock and roll. We never toed the line, we always got up people's noses.
Siberia refers to, we've always seen ourselves as kind of like outsiders, and Liverpool is like an outsider place. And I don't know, it was just one of the titles of the songs, and Max said, "What about Siberia?" and everybody loved it straight away. And he always says it's because we're the band that come in from the cold. And I just like it. I just like the word. Crocodiles. There's no crocodiles on the first album, except for the crocodile shoes reference. But it's kind of a cool word, Porcupine, crocodile, Siberia, sort of all fit together somehow. Like Porcupine, the cover is in Iceland, but it's that weird kind of putting things together that don't really belong. I don't want to say juxtaposed because it's a crap word.
A lot of people ask me why Siberia. It seems like a warm album, and I always said that's where Russia had to send the heat, to try and freeze it out somewhere. And like The Spy, we are the band who always keep coming in from the cold. And also my favourite one was So I Could Say we are the Ivan Denisoviches of rock and roll.
No, I think there's still, like, sit me and Mac in this room now with two guitars and an amp, and we'll just, we'll have like 6 things in half an hour. 4 of them will probably be reasonably good. It's just one of them things. We both come from the same. Like, I know there's like differences between us, but we both have got like very, similar tastes in the punk thing and the Velvet Underground and Iggy and Bowie and all that stuff. So there's a lot of common ground there, even though we always say we're like chalk and cheese. I think there's a few ways we write songs. We either sit down together and come up with something out of thin air. He'll have an idea, like chords and a melody or whatever, and I'll add bits to it, and we'll maybe change the structure to accommodate things that I can do. Or I'll have some ideas and bring them into him, and he'll, you know, fit words onto them, and maybe, you know, we'd change the structure to accommodate his thing. So it's like 3 ways we do it. I'd say the only way that we don't really do it now is what we used to do with the Bunnymen years ago, was we all get in a rehearsal room, just jam and see what happens. I'd say we don't really do that now. You know, it's just one of them things.
Hugh Jones' idea for Siberia was, Will had mentioned him quite a few times. Whenever the idea of a producer came up, Will would mention Hugh, and I'd think, yeah, that sounds great, but none of us really knew what he'd been doing, and I also knew that we weren't going to do Heaven Up Here again. And it was one of them as well. I felt that we were capable. With what are you going to do with your life, I knew exactly how I wanted that to sound, and I wanted us to. I kind of wanted to look after that album. Flowers was a different thing. That was more, I suppose, will and sounds kind of. And I thought we were capable of at this stage of doing a Bunnymen album, like a Bunnymen album. You know, no one knows us better than ourselves, except maybe Hugh Jones, you know.
Yeah, bringing Hugh Jones back was kind of something I'd been saying over the years. It was always sort of just fell on deaf ears, really. Just this time it just seemed to work, I don't know. Peasy, our manager, just said, what about Hugh Jones? Mac's up for it. And I went, yeah, definitely, I've wanted him back for years, you know, because Heaven Up Here is, well, it's my favourite album of the Bunnymen. Although, you know, they're all kind of favourites now, you know, except for one, which is What Are You Going to Do With Your Life? I don't really like that one, but the rest of them are great, you know.
The songs we're playing live from Siberia, I always do the set list. I mean, people might suggest things, but I always do. I do the order of the songs on the albums, and by the way, I write all the words finally. And I picked those ones. I just thought 4 songs in the set, that's enough new songs to play, I think. Especially, you know, there's songs that we don't play that used to be stapled. Don't Do It Clean, Over the Wall we don't play all that time, Zimbo, there's tons of them. So I kind of replace, it's generally like for like. So Scissors in the Sand will go in instead of Crocodiles, or Of a Life might go in instead of, I'm trying to think, 7 Seas or something. Even though that's not like for like, it's kind of got a poppy chorus and stuff. And I kind of went with the ones that I'd have chosen to play live would have been What If We Are, Everything Kills You, All Because of You Days. The ones that I would normally have gone for, I didn't pick, because I felt that I should represent maybe what other people like Will and the band, you know, a band likes to get stuck into things, but I don't ever want it to become just a rock and roll show. And at some point I would like to do What If We Are and All Because of You Days live, but that might be something I'll do solo, because I know how the songs should breathe, maybe.
We've rehearsed pretty much all of them, but the ones that we play, like In the Margins, Of a Life, Scissors in the Sand, and Stormy Weather, they all seem to work live better than any of the others, so you kind of, and they fitted in with the rest of the set really nice, so we just put them in. And we don't like to, you know, like I'm a music fan and I go and see bands, and if a band plays all the new album, you get a bit cheesed off. You want to, you know, if you don't see television and they don't do Marquee Moon or something, you'd be a bit cheesed off, wouldn't you? So I always like to sort of just fit them in as though they've been around for years and just part of the set, and it works. Bunnymen lineup's kind of developing all the time. You know, there's people come and go because, you know, obviously we can't go back. You know, Pete got killed, nothing we can do about that. You know, Les has left, and we did try and sort of get him back at one point, but he was not really that interested. And it does, you know, sort of flow. There's a bit of a revolving door, you know. So there's nothing we can do about it really, because we don't want to sort of, we can't be 4 lads starting a band anymore, you know, 4 18-year-olds starting a band, because you just can't do it now, you know. We're too old, and it's just too much has gone on and too much water under the bridge. I think, yeah, the ones that we've got with us now are, you know, they're amazing. Like, you know, they've really fitted into the Bunnymen vibe, and some of them have been with us a few years now. But I'd say, like Steve, the new bass player, he's been around about, I don't know, 6 months or so, something like that, because Pete, our old bass player, moved to London and he couldn't really do it anymore. There was no, like, you know, aggro or anything. He just left, you know, because he couldn't be bothered coming up to Liverpool all the time to rehearse and stuff like this. So, you know, and the rest of the band, they've all got their own projects on the go. Simon, the drummer's in a band called Freemaker. He seems to be getting a bit of attention now, so he might be going soon, you know, which is a shame, because he's probably the best drummer we've had since Pete, I'd say.
We want them now. So I just think they're fantastic. We gel on stage. It feels like we're invincible. And when we play live, you know, on the British tour, the American tour, and the Liverpool shows last year were like peaks of this bond and camaraderie. And it's a musical thing as well. They now know when I do that they really do have to go quieter. But they don't always obey, and maybe that's good. Maybe because I'm not always right, I don't think. But there's a chemistry there. That's, I suppose, the old-fashioned way. It's well documented which album changed my life. Ziggy Stardust, the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. Why? Because I felt like I was related to him somehow. That I was a star dat or a star destiny. I felt like I'd been sprinkled with the same stuff, and I had done prior to. I wasn't even particularly into music, but I felt. So I was not an awkward son. I had obviously a beautiful gate, which isn't the one that my mum had in front of the door. I felt like I was different. No, that the thinking of that is no different from every other kid. But I think the way I thought I was different to the way they thought they were. And you know, I was always into football. I was into football, and I was pretty good at it, but my eyesight, I knew I needed glasses when I was 11, but I didn't tell anyone until I was, first wore them in public when I was 17. Didn't tell my mum and dad for 2 years, just used to cheat at the eye test. So I was kind of in this haze anyway. They were nowhere near as bad as they are now. I could still make out things, that people had faces and stuff from a distance, but it kind of, it suited that a shy, blind, elegantly gated lad who liked football. To have this thing, Ziggy Stardust, fall from outer space and get me through, I suppose, puberty. I don't know, I was waiting for that to happen for far too long, I think. But it cushioned me, and it took me, you know, that's Will putting his shoes on. It cushioned me from a working class Liverpool, you know, that I kind of, it meant I found the beauty in things rather than, you know, the ugliness around every corner of where I grew up. We grew up in a part of Norris Green in Liverpool, which had grass verges and trees, you know, Dutch elm trees, before they got the disease that hit them. So it was kind of, I made this outer spacey kind of world, you know, that became, it felt spiritual and ghostly and nocturnal. I was always a nocturnal kid, you know, because that was when those records sounded the best. And I never wanted anyone to share the sounds of David Bowie's voice coming out of the bedroom. I wanted them to be, the family to be downstairs watching TV while I could go upstairs and just play Ziggy Stardust, as it says on the album, maximum volume, on a crappy little cassette machine.
As a teenager, the album that there's a lot, you know, like you can't say one album that had changed. Like I loved so many things when I loved Led Zeppelin, I loved the Sensational Alex Harvey Band, I loved Roxy music, Bowie, you know, and they all changed me life, you know. It was basically anything that wasn't bland pop, you know, anything that wasn't Chicory Tip, although I quite like Chicory Tip now, and because it's got like an early electro vibe to it, but the I'd say Roxy Music's first album, probably. You know, I saw them at the Empire with Brian Eno, and like Brian Eno's my big hero. You know, I was trying to get Eno to produce us way before you two had even heard of him, but it was never to be, and now he's too expensive. So that's not going to happen.
Will first met me in the toilet, the ladies' toilet, and no ladies, the girls' toilet of Eric's in Liverpool, the kind of punk club. It wasn't really a punk club, it was just it opened in '76 around that punk thing, but it was so much more than a punk club. And we met in the ladies' toilet because the lads was always overflowing with Slash. And he was there with Les, the bass player, who I thought looked a bit posh, and he wore like, I mean, Les was great. He was kind of, I always got on with Les probably more than the other two. I don't know, we all got on, but he'd scissor cut a shirt to make it look punk, and I thought that was funny. And they came from out of town, really. And they were with Paul Simpson, a friend who I kind of had just got to know, but he knew them from school, and we stood around singing World of David Bowie songs. I think I might not have joined in because I was a bit shy, even though I looked like I wasn't. And that was it, the first meeting. I thought, they seem alright. And then we met a few times after that. And there was a time at Kirkland's upstairs where Will just said, "Oh yeah, apparently you've got a fantastic voice. Do you want to do some stuff with me? I've got a guitar and a drum machine, and I live in Melling." And I'd never heard of Melling, you know, but I said okay, and that was it. I actually must have been 4 buses from Norris Green to Melling via the city centre. I don't know what the hell it was, but I got the necessary buses on my own, which in those days, carrying an acoustic guitar, you know, I wouldn't do that now. And not because I just don't think I'd have the nerve. And that was it.
Mac was kind of just one of the heads that used to go to Eric's, which was Liverpool's punk club, and he, you know, you sort of noticed him because he looked a bit freaky, you know. You know, he's kind of like a bit of a Bowie-esque androgynous vibe to him, so you did sort of notice him. But I'd say the first time I really spoke to him was when there was a girl called Penny Kiley was having a party. She used to work for the Liverpool Echo, and she was having this party in a place called Kirkland's, which is up Hardman Street in Liverpool. And Pete Wiley had said to me that Mac could sing, and I'd bought a drum machine and a guitar, and you know, the whole punk thing, anyone could be in a band type of thing. And I liked Kraftwerk and you know, the Devo and people like this, and Metal Airbane from France, really like them. They had like guitars and a drum machine, you know, Cabaret Voltaire, people like that, you know, all that sort of stuff. And I just sort of went up to him and said, do you want to come up to our house on Thursday, which was my day off? I used to be like a trainee chef, and Thursdays was my day off. And he actually turned up, but he was about 3 hours late, but he did turn up. Which was a bit of an effort really, because he had to come all the way from Norris Green, and it was a couple of buses and stuff, so I was quite impressed at the time. And we just played guitar all day and recorded it all on a cassette, and we just thought, this is great. And he'd recently sort of had some sort of argument with Julian Cope about something or other. I think he was involved in early version of the Teardrops, sort of vaguely, but he wasn't that into it. So it was good. You know, and it was just me and him and a drum machine. Now it's me, him and a drum machine and 4 other lads.
I thought he was weird, still is, just kind of, but interesting. And I just thought this fella's good. As soon as he went ding, 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 I thought, and he was so different to me in a lot of ways, but still driven, you know. And it was just the sound. I hit E to A, and he went ding, ding, ding. And I remember saying to him, the drum machine was clicking, and I said to him, we're the best band in the world. We're better than the Fall, I said, and I loved the Fall at that point. Still do, but that to me was high praise. And it was to myself. I just felt that's it, that's the nugget that you need. Oh, the drum machine had to go story. Seymour Stein or David Both or Bill Drummond. I think it was just, we hated being told anything. You know, you had to do this, you had to do that, you had to make your songs 3.5 minutes. It was like, we'll do what we want, but we'd done a year of little gigs with the drum machine, and lots of people, you know, it was a different sound definitely, because it was a rock thing. It wasn't electronic based at all. It was just, he was the drummer, and it was cheaper, and the rider went further in those days. But it just seemed, you know, they talked to us about it. We said, okay, we'll try a drummer out, and Pete came along, and he was the only one I think we tried. I can't remember trying anyone else. And again, he was so different. He was posh. He was born in Trinidad and Tobago, which must be hard. It's like saying you were born in Liverpool and Birkenhead. But he seemed to fit in, you know. He was a bit tight with his cigarettes. But within days, he was hitting the drums, you know, in a way that Echo couldn't. So, and it was kind of like, yeah, that's fine. Carry on now.
When we first met Seymour Stein, he wanted to sign us, but he said, you've got to get a drummer. But we weren't bothered. We wanted to get a drummer because the drum machines in them days, they were very basic. You know, we had 2 beats that we used, Rock 1 and Rock 2, and that was it. And we were quite happy to get a drummer that was not like we weren't going, oh no, we've got to get a drummer. We wanted to push it all forward anyway, so, you know, so we still, you know, bring in the drum box now and then, just to keep it. It's on the new album, on the end of one of the tracks. And the drum box has become Echo, you know. Like at first of all, we used to just sort of say it was Echo, just to shut people up thinking that Mac was an Echo, you know. But now it has become a being.
Okay. Which track?
Which track, what?
The drum machine on
the track the drum machine's on Parthenon Drive, just at the very end. It just sort of fades in and drifts out in a kind of spacey way. Yeah, it's the dead handy things to have. Like if I go around to Max, I'll take the drum machine, we'll stick it on, we'll write songs to the drum machine, you know, just to get the tempo. And nothing. Really, I don't know. I suppose it's just knowing that there's a bit of backup there, you know. Well, we're not signed to a major label, are we? We're signed to Cooking Vinyl at the minute. So I quite like being assigned to an indie label because they leave you alone. You know, it's not a case of what's the best thing, you know, being signed to a major label. It's like, what's the least worst thing, you know?
That was going to be my next question.
Right, because they just hassle you all the time to come up with hits and try and get you to do cheesy things. Like, we've done a couple of cheesy things in our time which we regret, you know, through people persuading us and labels and management and stuff. Like doing that sodding record with the Spice Girls. I knew that was a bad idea, but we sort of got conned into it. They said, like, we owed the record company so much money at that point, and they said, if you do this, it'll clear all your debt. So, you know, you're going to do it, aren't you? So that was the main reason I did it, just to think, well, might clear the debt. And it never cleared anything.
Probably the fact that it's an organisation that's worldwide. You know, when you are known worldwide, you want kind of a record label to have, you know, the right people in every location, you know, to make it work and to spread it. But they can afford to lose money, or to spend to invest on a marketing thing, which is a mad expression, marketing campaign. It's basically propaganda, you know, and the more money they've got to get the name out there, the better for the band. But they can also misunderstand how you use that propaganda. You know, every band's different, but especially if you're in the coolest band in the world, you can't just be shown or exposed to people like every other band that's come along, you know. And that's something that Warner's never got with us. They thought that was a failing in us, that we were so cool and so single-minded and so stubborn. But at the end of the day, we were the best, and that's what they kind of Rob always said, yeah, I know you're the best, but, you know, what's the point of being the best if you've given everyone 20-yard start in a race, you know? And, you know, he's got a point, but the cool factor, that's what is keeping us going now, and why we're still brilliant, because that's something that was never taken away from us. And, you know, if we didn't have that cool and that genius that flows through us, we wouldn't exist. And I know that he was thinking the real way to ensure that you're going to be around 25 years is to sell as many records as possible. However, and that is one way, but you'd end up wearing cowboy boots and shaking hands with every Tom, Dick and Southern Harry going, you know, and there was no way. I'm like that fella Monk, I don't know if you've seen that programme, he's a private eye, and he doesn't like touching people much, and he always has a wipe after he touches them. So, you know, that kind of, again, that untouchability thing that I felt Bowie had, you know, people you shouldn't have to sell billions of records to be sold in the right way, or to be record companied in the right way. Our records should go for, one copy of Ocean Rain should go for as much as whatever Van Gogh stuff goes for. But we'd have had to have only made one of them. But I do believe that, I think if a picture of a sunflower can go for 67 million quid, then Ocean Rain's double that. And it's a good painting.
Eric's was the hub of punk rock activity in Liverpool. There was every band that you can think of played there. Television, Suicide, Pere Ubu, The Clash, the Sex Pistols, Devo, 999, XTC, The Police, Joy Division. You know, all these bands played there, and it was just every week, non-stop, 3 nights a week, a brilliant band was on. And, you know, you can't help being sort of drawn into the music scene. Like, you know, like, look what came out of it. It's like, you know, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, Holly Johnson and, you know, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, all that stuff, Big in Japan, Spitfire Boys, you know, OMD, Us, Teardrop Explodes. There's just so many bands that sort of evolved in that little sort of hotbed of activity, and there's no places like that so much anymore. There is clubs that do music in Liverpool, but there's no kind of, I don't know, sort of breeding ground for it all. There's still loads of good bands coming out of Liverpool, but Eric's was just amazing. It was a magical place, you know. And when you're like 18, 19, and it was home, you know. Every night it was open, we were all down there.
Eric's club I would describe as the best, you know, it's the best club I've ever been to, you know, and I think especially for us, you know, shy kids, flamboyant, extravagant types, you know, it was a melting pot, and there was always a little gathering of similarly shy people that you could hang out with. And you know, I must say I must have looked easily the best dude in there, but at the time I didn't know it. I just thought, God, they look good. I wish I was with them, you know. And boy, it was just a great place to meet people who liked Wire and liked The Fall and liked Bowie and Iggy and the Velvets, and you know, it was the first time that I didn't want to be so elitist about and so possessive about what I liked. You know, at school I didn't want anyone liking Bowie, and for a while he didn't. But Eric's, it was kind of like, oh, do you like, you know, such and such, and it was the first time I could actually feel that was a good thing to share, a love for something.
Smelly Ellie was Mac's flatmate when he lived on Belmont Road, and he had the scummiest flat that I've ever seen in my life. In the kitchen was just all, you know, half-eaten tins of beans full of mould, and they never cleaned up ever, you know. It was horrible. He just had this flat with this student lad called Paul Ellerbeck, and he had a list of names. Like, he knew that me and Mac had sort of started this band, and we didn't even think about having a name, you know. It didn't seem to be that important at the time. And he had all this list of names. One was the Dazmen, Glycerol and the Fan Extractors, Mona Lisa and the Grease Guns, Echo and the Bunnymen. And we were doing a kind of concert, well, not a concert, that thing at Eric's, which was Teardrop Explodes. We're doing a student party for this college where Julian went, and he said to us, do you want to support us? And to me and Mac, it was just me and Mac and the drum machine at this point. And we said, yeah. And that was on the Sunday night, and the gig was to be on the Wednesday night. And Les, who was just one of the Eric's regulars, and I used to go to school with him, so we were kind of mates anyway. He said, oh, I'll get a bass and I'll play bass. We didn't even know what a bass was at the time. You know, we didn't know what an amp was, didn't know anything. You know, we didn't know much about anything to do with music. And we just learned this riff when it was Monkeys, and we just did it for about 12 minutes with the drum machine. And we'd never heard Mac sing. I'd never heard him sing. So when he started singing, it was like, bloody hell, amazing. And he just came out with this whole stream of, I don't know whether he'd written it down or what, but it's like this stream of consciousness thing, and everyone was like all the Eric's regulars were like stunned. And afterwards, I remember Jane Casey from Big in Japan coming over going, that was amazing. And after that, I just thought, well, we've got something here, you know.
Smelly Ellie was my flatmate for a while, and he thought of the name Echo and the Bunnymen, and his dad was a pilot. And I didn't find him that smelly, if at all, but I think it was just because he never changed his clothes. He probably did stink every now and then, but he was a posh dude with a stammer, one of the most incredible stammers ever, but it was like, even his stammer was an intelligent thing, you know. He was dead posh, he was like, and he always reminded me of Art Garfunkel, but the smelly type. He wasn't smelly, he was alright, he was a nut job, total nut job. But he thought of the name, and he's never once come ask you, oh shit, I hope he doesn't say this. Well, I don't think he can claim it anyway, I'll just say he was good, he was instrumental, big time in that, a lot more than other people that I'm not going to mention on this.
I'd say the main thing Bill Drummond brought to the whole, you know, Bunnymen organisation was kind of random organisation. You know, you'd say something to Bill like, oh, I'd like to play a sitar on this. The next day there'd be a sitar there, you know, and you'd have to learn how to play a sitar, and all your fingers would be bleeding because you didn't know how to do it. He came up with a lot of ideas, but a lot of the ideas he got from us that were just crazy ideas, you know. And a lot of these places that we went at the time, like Iceland and I don't know, you know, Blackburn, odd, funny things were things that he'd done when he was a kid, all the Isle of Skye and all that stuff. They're all places he went on holiday with his mum and dad. And he just wanted to go back there, I think, you know.
I don't know, I think he just took, not in a horrible way, but he realised that the Bunnymen had a thing, and he became more Bill Drummond through us. I certainly didn't think he was, I thought he was a good laugh, you know, and a bit wacky, but always infinitely less intelligent than I was and am, you know. So I just thought he was the manager, he was funny. You know, it was us who kind of said, let's do it this way, let's do it that way. He might have thought of locations to do that, but all he did was take the blueprint and work around it, you know. Never, you know, we're still waffling on about, you know, Echo being a mythical rabbit god, and it's like, no, he wasn't, he was the drum machine, and we're the Bunnymen, we write the songs, not your mythical gods and not you. And I do resent a lot of his self-mythologizing, because it was us that did it. He wrote a song called Big in Japan, and you know, he was great at the time, but he wasn't really a great manager even. You know, he was one of our mates who took us to Iceland and the Isle of Skye because he's Scottish, but he was born somewhere else. You know, it's again a lot of those Anglo-Scots kind of thinking that wearing a kilt kind of makes them authentic.
Ray Manzarek was brilliant. He's such a laid-back, typical Californian kind of bloke, you know. And I can't play the guitar like Robbie Krieger at all, you know. So I just did my version of People Are Strange, which is nowhere near as good as his, you know. But he never sort of pulled me up on it and said, oh, don't do it like that, I'll do it like this. He just let me do whatever, you know. So it was good. He's a really nice chap, but we haven't seen him for years, so.
Working with Ray Manzarek was a hoot. I think it was about 3 or 4 days, and we recorded it out in Kirby at the old Amazon Studios. I think he stayed in our house. I know I cooked him steak au poivre one night, and he said it was great. It was great. And I turned him onto brown bitter, which isn't like acidic heroin. Yeah, it was a good laugh. It was great. We'd kind of, I think he'd played with us before that, live, or I can't remember, my memory is rubbish, but it was great, and recording with him, and you know, it was, I think he introduced us to a kind of, some kind of slightly different way of working as a band, you know, to stretch things a bit more. You know, he put in chords that weren't on the original, and the band went with that, you know, and because we were never a band for jamming much, you know, because we didn't know enough chords, you know, and jamming just does me head in anyway. So like, where the hell do I go, you know? And you know, I think he put something in my mind anyway that, hang on a second, you can take a song and then you can just let it loose for a bit and get a circular chordal thing going without a vocal line needed or even a guitar part or anything. It's just, you go with the flow of a band, and I think he brought that, and he was in the doors, you know what I mean? And he was in another of the best bands of all time, the Bunnymen, for 3 days. In the studio with Liam, that was great. That was, you know, potentially an accident waiting to happen, but it was actually something really great came out of it. I mean, we had a good laugh, definitely, and it was so funny. But dead musical, you know, what I came away with is a good laugh, dead nice bloke, looks fantastic, and but he's really into music, and he was there when we mixed Nothing Lasts Forever, and I just said coming, because he bombarded me with their album, you know, maximum volume through PA speakers in the studio. I mean, truly, my ears were ringing, you know, it's a cliche, but it was unbelievable. Couldn't hear a sodding thing. So he sang the vocals right in my ear because it was so loud you couldn't hear the top end. And then I said, come and listen to our one, and it was like, you know, a bit of a lilting ballady type thing. He went banging, or whatever they said in Manchester. And he was just sitting there, and he was humming along to himself, and I thought, is he all right there? And he was kind of coming up with the backing vocal there, like, yeah. And he sang, he said, I've got this thing, so I'll go in and do it. And it wasn't like, do you want me to do it? He said, I'll go in and do it if you don't like it. And he went in and did it, and it was like, that works, you know. And then he said, and also, Tamborine's got to come in here, last verse. So he went in, he just picks up a tambourine and goes in and says, just record me now. You know, I think then anyway, I think he thought all he had to do was go in and it would be recorded without the fella checking if he had the tracks. But so, and he put the tambourine down, it was like, that is perfect. And so it was like production kind of things in his head that he went in and did, and then he said, got to have hand claps at the end and we'd all sing along at the end. And those three things, you know, helped make that record just move on. That extra magical bit. I mean, it was with or without that, it was magical, but he just made it. He sprinkled more of that dust on it, and I was amazed, to be honest. I thought, and the impression some people get of him, it's like, obviously it's a lot of it's self-inflicted, but he was in the biggest English band for God knows how long, and regardless of what he was like, he'd have attracted that kind of whatever, you know. And I think he's dealt with it well, and he's a good laugh, and I like him a lot. And I like Noel, he's come out of his shell, and they were really important, Oasis, for British music at that time. You know, they had the front man, and they were northern.
Oh, there's loads of great memories with Pete. He, you know, we were all into motorbikes at the time, obviously, and he just got this brand new carpet, and we all had a flat in Sefton Park, which is an area of Liverpool, and we all shared a flat. There was me, Les, Jay Correll, keyboard player, Pete, and this lad, an artist bloke called Tim Whitaker. And we all had this top floor of this massive big Victorian house. It was like the Monkeys on acid. And he got this brand new carpet. It was amazing. No one had a carpet. We all had crappy floorboards and it was all a bit scummy. And he got this carpet. And the next day, he brought his engine up out of his Ducati and was like fixing it, changing the shims. You always have to change shims on Ducati engines. And there was like oil all over his brand new carpet. He was really clever, but a bit no common sense somehow. Sometimes, you know, he'd do mad things. But he was amazing, Pete. You know, he was such a nice bloke. If he had £2 left, he'd give you, 150 of it if you needed it, you know. He was amazing.
Well, favourite story about Peter, there's so many. I mean, when he went mad, I suppose my favourite is he was phoning everyone up, saying he was going to do this and that while painting ducks on the World Trade Center. I mean, he might have given Bin Laden the idea, I don't know, but it was when he phoned me up one night and I had to get my number. I had to get a block on it because he was so insane. He was like threatening, and you know, which is funny if he'd have been in the same room, but when he's on the phone out of his mind. But he said that I owed him £5,500 and 26 pence for cigarettes, and I'd cadged off him through the air, and it was just down to the pennies. I thought, no, that's my favourite story. But there were loads, you know, me and him being naughty and, you know, doing little naughty things in record company toilets, you know, off a Plexum or whatever. I always think of that and then kind of his posh little giggle. But he was great, Pete. And my favourite memory that sums him up as a man is, I suppose, the drumming in the back of the, because his drumming was inseparable from him, you know. And I think when he wanted to do more than drum, that was when he came unstuck. He was the best drummer in the world and he didn't know it. And he was in another of the best bands of all time, the Bunnymen, for 3 days. In the studio with Liam, that was great. That was, you know, potentially an accident waiting to happen, but it was actually something really great came out of it. I mean, we had a good laugh, definitely, and it was so funny. But dead musical, you know, what I came away with is a good laugh, dead nice bloke, looks fantastic, and but he's really into music, and he was there when we were mixing Nothing Lasts Forever, and I just said coming because he bombarded me with their album, you know, maximum volume with 3 PA speakers in the studio. I mean, truly. My ears were ringing, you know, it's a cliche, but it was unbelievable. Couldn't hear a sodding thing. So he sang the vocals right in my ear because it was so loud you couldn't hear the top end. And then I said, come and listen to our one, and it was like, you know, a bit of a lilting ballady type thing. He went banging, or whatever they said in Manchester. And he was just sitting there and he was humming along to himself, and I thought, is he all right there? And he was kind of coming up with the backing vocal, like, yeah. And he sang, he said, I've got this thing, so I'll go in and do it. And it wasn't like, do you want me to? He said, I'll go in and do it if you don't like it. And he went in and did it, and it was like, that works, you know. And then he said, and also, Tamborine's got to come in here, last verse. So he went in, he just picks up a tambourine, goes in, and says, just record me now. You know, I think then anyway, I think he thought all he had to do was go in and it would be recorded without the fella checking if he had the tracks. But So, and he put the tambourine down, it was like, that is perfect. And so it was like production kind of things in his head that he went in and did, and then he said, got to have hand claps at the end and we'd all sing along at the end. And those three things, you know, helped make that record just move on, that extra magical bit. I mean, it was, with or without that, it was magical, but he just made it, he sprinkled more of that dust on it. And I was amazed, to be honest. I thought, and the impression some people get of him, it's like, obviously it's a lot of it's self-inflicted, but he was in the biggest English band for God knows how long. And regardless of what he was like, he'd have attracted that kind of whatever. You know, and I think he's dealt with it well, and he's a good laugh, and I like him a lot. And I like Noel, he's come out of his shell. And they were really important, Oasis, for British music at that time. You know, they had the front man, and they were northern.
There's loads of great memories with Pete. He, you know, we were all into motorbikes at the time, obviously, and he just got this brand new carpet, and we all had a flat in Sefton Park, which is an area of Liverpool, and we all shared a flat. There was me, Les, Jay Correll, keyboard player, Pete, and this lad, an artist bloke called Tim Whittaker. And we all had this top floor of this massive big Victorian house. It was like the Monkeys on acid. And he got this brand new carpet. It was amazing. No one had a carpet. We all had crappy floorboards, and it was all a bit scummy. And he got this carpet. And the next day, he brought his engine up out of his Ducati and was like fixing it, changing the shims. You always had to change shims on Ducati engines. And there was like oil all over his brand new carpet. He was really clever, but a bit no common sense somehow. Sometimes, you know, he'd do mad things. But he was amazing, Pete. You know, he was such a nice bloke. If he had £2 left, he'd give you, you know, 150 of it if you needed it. You know, he was amazing.
Well, favourite story about Peter, there's so many. I mean, when he went mad, I suppose my favourite is he was phoning everyone up, saying he was going to do this and that while painting ducks on the World Trade Center. I mean, he might have given Bin Laden the idea, I don't know, but it was when he phoned me up one night, and I had to get my number. I had to get a block on it because he was so insane. He was like threatening, and you know, which is funny if he'd have been in the same room, but when he's on the phone out of his mind. But he said that I owed him £5,500 and 26 pence for cigarettes, and I'd cadged off him through the year. And it was just down to the pennies. I thought, no, that's my favourite story. But there were loads, you know, me and him being naughty and, you know, doing little naughty things in record company toilets, you know, off a Plexum or whatever. I always think of that and then kind of his posh little giggle. But he was great, Pete. And my favourite memory that sums him up as a man is, I suppose, the drumming in the back of it. Because his drumming was inseparable from him, you know. And I think when he wanted to do more than drum, that was when he came unstuck. He was the best drummer in the world, and he didn't know it.